ratifier la Convention de Genève.
Économie.
Réforme judiciaire.
Sveiki, čia Europos naujienos, tik pas mus ES aktualijos glaustai ir originalo kalba, tad kai kurie reportažai su lietuviškais titrais, visa tai jūsų patogumai. Na, o šioje laidoje Europos semestras brandos paieškose, grėsmė Šengenui, ar sugriežtinta ES išorės sienų kontrolė sustabdys radikaliuosius kovotojus. Visa tai ir žinoma dar daugiau visai netrukus, taigi metas pradėti. Europos semestras brandos paieškose. Parlamentas ragina stiprinti ES darnios ekonomikos politiką, nukreiptą į biudžeto deficito mažinimą, ekonomikos skatinimą, darbo vietų kūrimą ir tvarų augimą.
Aligning member state economic policies with the targets set by the EU is the mantra of the European semester. It is a cycle of 6 months negotiations allowing the 28 EU member states to coordinate structural reforms and budget policies and preventing macroeconomic disparities within the EU.
Mais on voit bien que quand arrivent des crises, des circonstances exceptionnelles, on ne sait pas comment s'y prendre. Il faut un gouvernement de la zone euro, un gouvernement économique, financier, budgétaire. Et il faut une direction du trésor de la zone euro. Il faut un budget de la zone euro. Nous y travaillons.
To improve this coordination, MEPs are calling for statistical indicators for measuring the impact of policies adopted.
I propose the introduction of 3 employment indicators, namely the activity rates, the youth employment rates, and the long-term unemployment rates.
In March 2016, member states will formulate their policies aimed for the year ahead. They will be called to take on board the recommendations made in the European semester negotiations.
Toliau laidoje darbo paieškų užsienyje palengvinimas. Nedarbo lygis Europoje aukštas, todėl užimtumo tarnybų tinklas EURES tikrai turi ką veikti. Pažiūrėkime, ką konkrečiai.
More than 1 million job vacancies. 235,000 CVs. EURES, the European Jobs Network, hosts around 6,000 employers. But only 3% of the available European labour force are mobile. Set up in 1993, the European Jobs Network was designed to facilitate the free movement of workers within the European Economic Area. At the heart of reform, the inclusion of a maximum number of existing job services.
Wir wollen genau jetzt in dieser Phase die massive Einbindung der privaten Arbeitsvermittler. Wir wollen die Einbindung der regionalen Arbeitsvermittler. Wir wollen die Einbindung der Sozialpartner, wenn sie Angebote machen für Jobs. Wir wollen die Einbindung von NGOs, wenn sie es tun.
But signing up to it isn't compulsory for member states or for job seekers.
It's not mandatory for anyone. Nobody can be compelled to take a job that's advertised on EURES, and nobody can have their benefits cut if they don't. It's a service to make it easier for people who want, and there are millions and millions and millions of people across the EU who do indeed desperately want to find work.
By the end of 2015, the number of people out of work is still a sky-high 22 million. That's a rate of unemployment of 9%.
Pagrindinė šios laidos tema – grėsmė Šengenui. Jūsų dėmesiu reportažas apie Graikijos ir Švedijos pastangas suvaldyti migraciją, kurios sulaukė griežtos kritikos, kaip keliančios labai realią grėsmę Šengeno erdvei.
Le bateau file à vive allure sur la mer Égée entre la Grèce et la Turquie. À son bord, des membres d'organisations non gouvernementales. Leur mission, sauver des migrants qui tentent de rejoindre les côtes européennes sur de frêles embarcations.
No, relax, no problem. The situation is quite horrible for the refugees coming over the ocean. Shouldn't be needed to be here. Europe now needs to wake up. This is not going to stop. It's been going on for a long time. We need to realize that this is not going to stop. We need to make this as safe as possible.
En 2015, plus d'1 million de migrants ont transité par la Grèce. Face à cet afflux sans précédent, l'Union européenne a pensé avoir trouvé la parade, mettre en place des centres d'accueil et d'enregistrement pour migrants, des hotspots. Ils seront implantés en première ligne en Grèce et en Italie. Mais 4 mois après cette décision, sur l'île de Lesbos, le premier centre d'accueil grec est encore en train d'être aménagé. Pour sa directrice, l'enregistrement des migrants est opérationnel.
We have now 2 registration areas and that give us the right to register 1,000 people per day for each registration area. That means 2,000 people per day.
Mais ces chiffres masquent une autre réalité. Malgré l'aide d'agences européennes, les États membres estiment qu'il existe toujours des défaillances sérieuses aux frontières helléniques, notamment dans le domaine de l'enregistrement des réfugiés, de la surveillance en mer ou encore dans les infrastructures d'accueil.
If you don't control the arrivals and the number of the people that they are coming, it's very difficult to provide all the facilities that it's necessary to have for the people. Let's say clothes, clean clothes and food, accommodation. You know, today it's very bad weather and we don't have so many arrivals. But tomorrow we are going maybe to face 5,000 arrivals.
Pour cet acteur de l'humanitaire, l'enregistrement n'est pas tout. Il faut aussi pouvoir accueillir dignement les migrants.
Les autorités sont encore toujours focalisées seulement sur l'enregistrement, dans la partie le contrôle des frontières, la sécurité, l'enregistrement et les démarches administratives. Ils ne sont pas du tout impliqués dans tout ce qui est la partie humanitaire.
Pour se rendre compte des réalités du terrain, une eurodéputée a fait le déplacement dans le camp de Moira. Kachetou Keyenge co-rédige un rapport parlementaire sur les crises migratoires en Europe.
In qualche modo si sta muovendo e sta mettendo le cose in atto. È chiaro che non è tutto perfetto, perché poi anche parlando in giro con le persone che si occupano dell'identificazione ci hanno fatto vedere anche quali sono le debolezze di tutto questo passaggio, perché la Grecia ha ancora bisogno di aiuto.
L'impact de la crise migratoire a de lourdes répercussions au sein de l'Union et sur ses voisins. L'Allemagne, l'Autriche, la France, le Danemark, la Norvège et la Suède ont demandé de rétablir les contrôles aux frontières pour une durée de 2 ans, mettant en danger la sacro-sainte libre circulation des personnes au sein de l'espace Schengen. Sur le pont Øresund qui relie le Danemark à la Suède, des agents de police sont passés à l'action. Désormais, plus question pour les citoyens européens de traverser la frontière sans montrer patte blanche.
The word has spread and the human smugglers also know that there are tougher controls here. So the migrants are staying south of the border in Germany and so on.
Au sommet de la crise migratoire en 2015, plus de 2000 réfugiés rejoignaient la Suède par jour. Depuis le rétablissement des contrôles, ce chiffre est descendu à près de 100.
We are planning for the long term that this will be in place. Schengen is in grave danger right now because of the inability for the Schengen countries to keep the outer borders.
Mais pourquoi dans un pays où l'accueil des réfugiés est une tradition, limiter l'entrée des Syriens qui fuient l'horreur de la guerre?
We've done more than almost any other country in Europe. The other border of EU doesn't work. The idea of the Schengen cooperation is that you have a common outer border, and if that works, you don't have to have the national borders.
Un sentiment qui fait écho chez d'autres politiciens.
In order to boost security, you need the reintroduction of internal borders. For real specific threats to your border, then I accept that all options at the moment are on the table.
Les conditions hivernales ont tari les arrivées de réfugiés. Mais avec le retour du printemps, les autorités suédoises s'attendent à ce que les frontières du pays soient à nouveau sous pression. Pour Rania, arrivé d'Alep il y a 5 mois, il y a encore des milliers de Syriens qui attendent en Turquie pour rejoindre l'Europe.
بعتقد اللي بتركيا كله بده يطلع لأن معاملة التراب كمان مو زيادة مع السوريين يعني ما استقبلوا السوريين منيح لا يعني كله اللي بعرفهم واللي ما بعرفهم كله بدهم يطلعوا أوروبا.
Pour Irsa, sa belle-sœur, née en Suède, les autorités suédoises n'étaient pas prêtes à accueillir autant de réfugiés sur un laps de temps si court.
People eat the grass, people eat things from the walls, people drink dirty water. They are fleeing to just have maybe 1% chance to survive, to give their kids a life.
La plupart des réfugiés qui arrivent en Suède passent par ce centre pour y demander l'asile. Malgré le nombre élevé de demandes, rien ne justifierait, selon cette responsable, la mort de l'espace Schengen.
Of course, we are depending on each other, every one of us. But the Schengen system, I feel, it's profound. So I think that it will take a lot to threaten the Schengen system.
Les États membres ont imposé un ultimatum à la Grèce pour qu'elle renforce ses frontières. Un objectif de taille tant les infrastructures sont insuffisantes et le nombre de réfugiés important. Mais il y a plus encore que la gestion des réfugiés, le futur du grand projet européen, celui de l'espace Schengen, qui est menacé.
Na ir tarsi tęsiant temą, ar sugriežtinta ES išorės sienų kontrolė sustabdys radikaliuosius kovotojus? Atsakymai yra skirtingi.
An estimated 5,000 EU citizens have left Europe for Middle Eastern conflict zones recently, mainly Syria and Iraq. Those who returned arrived with combat experience and jihadist zeal. Witness last year's attacks in Paris. Europe is responding to the heightened terrorist threat by tightening controls on its external borders. Romanian MEP Monica Macovei and Austrian MEP Ulrika Lunacek are steering the legislation through Parliament. Do new European Commission measures to have IDs checked against several data banks go far enough to hold radicalized fighters?
That's one reason for modifying these Schengen rules, to be able to identify them. Probably if you see a citizen of from a EU country going to Syria or again, based on information, yes, you could stop. We have more databases, Europol, Frontex, plus the national databases. For instance, if someone uses a stolen ID or a fake ID, and so on, or if there is information that someone comes into the EU to put in danger the security of the citizens.
Some terrorists of the attacks of Paris and others have been or are EU citizens that had been traveling outside and then coming back in from Syria or elsewhere through EU external borders, and they pass through even though in some of the databases they had already been marked and there was already there should be a hit system on them, and then they could be checked further. So now the idea is to use all these three databases, the Interpol databases, the Schengen system, and also national databases. So this is something that has to deal with terrorists, with international crime. It doesn't have anything to do with refugees. That is also important to clarify.
Have they got the balance right between the need for security and freedom of movement?
Even if we have to do such checks of the ID, if it counterbalance the need for security. European citizens do not feel secure, they fear, and rightly so. So I think it's better to make sure that everyone who goes in and out is checked, including me, including you, including anyone who is honest, in order to stop those who come to bring fear and terror and death in the European Union.
The problem I have with that as a Green is that it really will have every EU citizen being checked at the external borders. We could have too long waiting queues at the borders for EU citizens, and that is not something we want. And also as a Green, I say I don't want this system to be very intrusive. Yeah? And in a way it's something a bit backward. Yeah. Personally, I'm more in favor to keep more of the freedoms alive, because there is no 100% security. There never is in life.
Do these measures go hand in hand with other social measures to deal with radicalized citizens?
There will be more security checking, and the border should have more people, should have more equipment, and so on, more computers to look into and to see in the Schengen information system, for instance, who I am and everything.
When you look into the reasons why many of these young men and some young women as well become radicalized, it has a lot more to do with a sense of not belonging, with a sense of having been traumatized on certain issues, with a sense of wanting to be somebody, with a lack of self-esteem. Yeah? And that then makes them radical. So there's a lot of psychology in it. I mean, some people who have extreme views, not necessarily, or radical views, not necessarily they become violent. Yeah? So this step has to be prevented, and that needs a lot more money, a lot more education of teachers, of social workers, of psychologists, etc., and also using them.
O dabar kultūra arba autentiško Europos kino puoselėjimas. Lux kino apdovanojimas garsina Europos kino filmus, įtaigiai kalbančius apie socialinės ir politinės problemas ir pasirūpina jų vertimu į visas oficialias ES kalbas.
Red carpet, sequins, movie stars and directors. Since 2007, the European Parliament has had its own cinema prize. Each year, a panel of film experts selects 10 European movies. Their 3 favourites are the Lux Prize finalists. Immigration, social integration and poverty are the subjects that come up most often. Moving stories that are almost always social and realistic.
The winner is Mustang by Dennis Game Argument.
The Lux Prize carries very well its name. It's the 3 films which were selected were all questioning our societies in one way or another, and all these films could possibly open a few doors of thinking, of dialogue on different questions. So it's a way of strengthening these films and echoing their resonance very, very strongly. So it's an immense power that it gives us.
Plenty of food for thought too at a political level.
Sie brauchen nicht uns Politiker, ihre Filme zu machen, aber wir brauchen sie, besser zu verstehen.
This is authentic European cinema, which is different from the Hollywood blockbusters.
There has to be public money, public support, and an awareness that cinema, art in general, that cinema is an art form and that it should be protected from the pressures of market and pressures of politics too. And that's why today's prize is really is meaningful, because it shows that the European Union, the European Parliament protects difficult films or films which are not obvious, you know. And I think this is a really good sign, and I'm really happy to have received this prize.
There's another difference, which is also a peculiarity of European cinema, are many official languages. So the Lux Prize offers subtitling in the 24 official languages of the Union to the 3 finalists' films, a technical operation costing €3,000 per version. And the great journey begins. First to Venice, where the 3 finalists are presented during the Mostra Festival. They are then shown in cinemas in all EU member states, as the prize is based on voting by the European public. Then back to Brussels, where the European Parliament opens its own cinema for a few weeks. MEPs are invited to vote for their favourite. And at the end of each year, the winner of the Lux Prize is finally announced at an official ceremony in Strasbourg.
Tiek šiandien, ačiū už drauge praleistą laiką. Europos naujienos laida, kurią rengiame drauge su Europar TV, jūsų lauks ir kitą savaitę, tad iki naujų susitikimų.
Ratifier la Convention de Genève.
Économie.
Riforma giudiziaria.
Programul european de monitorizare.